listening to the 10 Questions with the Musical Mind podcast with your host, Peter Harris.
Hey Andy, how you doing today?
Hey man, how's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. I appreciate you taking the time out to talk with us.
Oh man, I'm flattered you asked.
Yeah. Now I've got some questions for you, but first things first, I want to ask you, how'd your gig go the other night at the Bijou?
Man, it was killer. Excuse me. We had the opportunity to do something that I'd never done before, which was not have an opener.
Right.
Usually, typically, you have somebody kick the show off. This time, this show, because I grew up playing so much bluegrass, I wanted to do a legit bluegrass band. We brought in Daniel Kimbrough from Earls of Leicester and Jerry Douglas Band, Matt Menifee and Eli Bishop from the Hit Points, and Seth Taylor from Mountain Heart and Ricky Skaggs' group. It was like a really just full-on bluegrass onslaught.
Right.
So we did 45 minutes of that, then a quick intermission, and then like 6 of my instrumentals and some stuff of my upcoming record that's about to come out, or about to finish up rather. And then some of the brand new stuff, which is a project called the Kennedy Wood Band. And that is with a singer-songwriter out of Nashville named Dave Kennedy. And it's real interesting because it's got this really old school bluesy vibe, it's kind of the non-typical thing that I think people think of when they think about what I do. It's a lot less circus trick type playing.
Right. Well, you got that blues element strong, definitely in your playing, but yeah, maybe that'll be a little more.
Yeah, it's very Southern rock blues. A lot of influences from, basically Freddie King, Allman Brothers, Black Crowes. Like it's very, very in that realm. And it was super fun to do the show. We ended up doing Dave and I, for the encore, ended up doing a guitar and vocal only version of Merle Haggard's Silver Wings.
Cool.
And really, really cool way to like honor the hag and stuff. So,
yeah.
The show was great and we had a great time. So that's just kind of
awesome.
a little. Yeah.
I was sorry I couldn't see it. I had some other commitments going on, but I wanted to go. And you and I ran into each other at the Eric Johnson show just a couple nights before that.
Oh yeah, and it was cool to obviously stand where EJ stood, and on my new record I have a song that's dedicated to EJ, and so because of the fact that he played a couple nights before, I debuted it at the show the other night.
Awesome. So can you tell us the title, or is that waiting until more details come out?
Yeah, I haven't really spilled the beans too much, but the title is Back to Austin. The reason being is because, the iconic EJ performance is the Austin City Limits, with the band leader coat and the whole deal,
right.
So, that's kind of like my homage to him. And, wow, what a show he put on, man.
It's funny. It's more a product of the times when he was first coming out, Tones and Avia Musicom and stuff. The band leader coat, just because we were coming out of the 80s, I was like, okay, is that band leader or is that Yngwie Malmsteen? Like, what? Because Yngwie used to wear the.
Yeah, and to me it was, I guess because I wasn't there at that time, to me it was it looks so Hendrix, like when I look at it, I'm like, oh, and it's a guy playing a Strat through a Marshall. It's like just the imagery kind of paints that Hendrix vibe, but I never thought about the Yngwie connotation.
He wore that a few times in his early days.
Yeah, I remember he had the cufflinks and everything. I remember it when you said it. I obviously recall it, but it's not just not what I was like. Oh, it's that,
Right? Yeah. Now, I don't know all your influences, but I would. And these are not any of the questions I've got, but I would consider. I would bet money that you had to have at least been aware of Steve Morse.
Steve Morse, yeah. So I discovered Steve Morse about the same time I discovered Eric Johnson. I was playing in a theater in Pigeon Forge, and up until this point, I wasn't playing any electric guitar. I was playing a lot of mandolin and some acoustic and stuff. And I was playing mandolin and acoustic in the theater show in Pigeon Forge. And for those listeners that don't know, or maybe don't live in East Tennessee, Pigeon Forge is like a Branson, Missouri, where there's a lot of theaters, Vegas style shows, you know. So I was playing in one of those. A wee pup in high school, and the electric guitar player saw me playing and warming up, and he's like, "Oh man, you must listen to a lot of Paul Gilbert." And I was like, "Who?" Yeah. He's like, "You know, like the alternate, like Steve Morse." And I was like, "Who?" You know, I was like, so he made a mix CD or a compilation tape or whatever you want to call it, and it had Eric Johnson's Cliffs of Dover, Steve Morse, Too Many Notes, Steve Vais, For the Love of God. It had like the quintessential, I can't believe you haven't heard these songs, and you're, you know,
right.
And that like really was, you know, I can't tell you how, you know, how much that meant to me, because that opened the door to all the things that, you know, kind of led.
It's cool that you got to be a good player not going through that filter, because it kept, I mean, so many people were stuck in the trap. I mean, my generation, I mean, I was in high school in the 80s, and if you played or tried to play, I mean, you were devouring all that stuff, and it was almost impossible to ignore that influence. So it's cool that you got to be an accomplished player not knowing who they were, because
it's funny, man. I come into it backwards a lot of times now when I'm hanging out with guys that in the industry or whatever, we're crossing paths doing whatever clinic or event or gig or whatever. You know, it's fun because there's a lot of people that are scratching the surface that haven't heard a lot of Bela Fleck or Newgrass Revival, or, you know, and that's cool to me because that's the stuff I take for granted, because that's what my granddad had me listen to, you know. Sure. And it's also cool to be like you said, you're coming into that stuff with a different perspective. And you know, this new record that we're working on, for the few ears that I've listened to it, they've all been like, "Dude, this is like the dregs," you know. So it's definitely. I'll wear that comparison, and I have a lot of internet people always posting on YouTube videos or Instagram videos like, "Oh man, so Steve Morse," and I take that as a compliment, and I think the natural comparison would be because I love to have fiddles or steel guitars or banjos or southern instruments in a fuso kind of hodgepodge of music with a distorted electric guitar. You know, I think that there wouldn't be what I'm doing without, you know, the dregs.
And I think that
just frankly speaking,
your live
you know,
setup and stuff is, I really welcome that you having the steel guitar and the fiddle, because it really adds a lot of depth to it. I mean, even being a guitar lover, I mean, it can get in a live setting, you can be like, okay, it's almost like overkill. You know,
well, there's only so many guitar solos you can hear from anybody, and you're like, I get it, you're really good, you know. And it's like you need things to break that up, and in general, that's where guys lean on maybe bringing in a keyboard player, or, you know. But for me, it's like when I think about how many voices a steel can use and the way it can pitch and bend, I'd rather have that than a synth. And I think people have a misconception of what those instruments sound like because it's always just within a country context. Sure. And when people hear it in that other kind of context, I think it's fresh. And, you know, there's some really great playing on this new record from Matt Menifee and Travis Toy. That's, you know, steel and banjo and stuff over, you know, more, I don't like to say rock, but, you know, a fusion of rock and country and jazz, whatever it is that I make. I have no idea what it is, but
it's good though. It's good.
it's what I do. So.
No, but I love it because you know, listening to your albums, it's the genre jumps you do just keeps it fresh, and it's not, you know, here's 10 instrumentals with a 4/4 time blues riff, and I'm going to solo in 30-second notes over it. I mean, that's great, but 8 songs of it, you're kind of like, okay, I get it, but you really break it up a lot with your acoustic pieces and the country vibe and all that kind of stuff. So I dig it.
That's awesome, man. This new record's really fun because it is 10 instrumental songs. There isn't any. This will be the first record I do that has no singing on it whatsoever, and it's like where previously I would do acoustic songs and then I would do electric songs, and they kind of lived in different worlds. Right. This record is the first true record that I'm doing where it's like there's none of that segregation. Cool. There's you know, distorted guitars playing lines with mandolins and acoustic guitars, and it's like a true blend, you know. So I hope that people like it. I feel like it's not going to have a lot of middle ground. I think people are going to really dig it or really not dig it.
Hey, you know what? I mean,
it's going to be pretty divisive on if you dig it or not. So.
why be the master of mediocrity? Just go all the way.
Yeah,
and
it's like,
and the people who love it will really love it, and some people won't get it. I mean,
yeah, and that's cool. It's not meant to be commercial. The Kennedy Wood stuff is a lot more about the song. It's a lot more about the lyrics and the vocals. And Dave Kennedy just is a fabulous singer. For those who don't know, he hates to get any comparison, but he's definitely got that vibe of a Stapleton or an Isbell or a Sturgill Simpson. Like, he's got that vibe. I don't want to say that anybody sounds like anybody else, but I think we all could agree that those three artists could play a show together and it feel like cohesive, right?
So when I put this article up, should I put it Andy Wood pairs with Stapleton Brothers clone? No, just kidding.
Yeah, please word it exactly like that. He would love that.
Yeah, and I'll put in quotes like you said it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, he's just a brilliant lyricist who happens to be a fabulous singer, and that's pretty rare. You usually get a guy that kind of leans pretty heavy lyric side, or a guy that leans pretty heavy vocal chops side.
Sure.
And Dave's got something going on. He's got a thing, and that project came about with us just noodling around. We've written for years together, and we came across a batch of songs that we didn't really want to share with anybody else. So that's how the band formed, and it's got Ben Eller on bass, which is fun because Ben is known widely as a guitar player from his YouTube channel, the Weekend Wang Shop, which has like 160,000 subscribers. It's crazy how big that channel is. And then Andy Campbell, who I've worked with for many years, is on drums. And there's some really great keyboard play. And we had Julius Blue. Chris Blue is the guy that won The Voice. His brother is a fabulous musician on keyboards. Yeah. Come in and do some really cool keyboard stuff. And really happy about the project, and can't wait to share the music with everyone.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to that. Now, what did you start playing? Like, what age about?
Man, early, like 5-ish. Okay. Mandolin, bluegrass, fiddle tunes. My cousin played, and my granddad got it started. It's kind of like, it's the question that everybody's like, all right, yeah, he grew up bluegrass. It's like that typical answer. But yeah, I started real young, and by the time I went over to electric guitar, I could already alternate pick pretty solidly,
Sure.
and it was it was actually that Brent Mason solo on Pick It Apart, the new Nashville Cats album, that made me want to pick up electric guitar and take it seriously.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that would get your alternate picking down pretty good. To my knowledge, there wasn't a real big sweep picking scene in mandolin playing.
No, it's really, in general, just due to the nature of the double string, when you sweep on it, you get this like, kind of little like pulse rifle kind of sound. The cool thing is a lot of the cross picking thing that I get asked about by guys like Troy Grady or whoever. For those who don't know, and you're curious about right hand technique, Troy Grady has Cracking the Code on the internet. It's one of the finest websites that I've ever seen. Really well done. Anyways, guys like him that want to ask, technique questions and right hand questions, I didn't realize how much of that came from old Jesse McReynolds records, where I was learning the cross pick from guys like him, or even learning Bela Fleck banjo style things and applying them to alternate picking.
Were you self-taught? Did you take lessons, or did you pick it all up by ear and videos?
No lessons. My granddad played, and
okay.
That's how we learn, And then when I turned 18, I went to school at the University of Tennessee for a year and a half-ish and did the typical musician thing. All right, cool. Right. This is some theory. This is some bebop stuff. One of these days, if I ever, can buckle down, I'd probably go back just to finish the degree. But, time and pursuits of artistic desire, I guess,
sure.
really lead one away from scholastics. And, that's kind of like where I'm here. I ended up going from school to, a rock band, as one does, and then into the hired gun game. And, this year I've been doubling down on myself and really working to put the nose to the grindstone and finish some content that needed to be done. And I'm happy to say that, we've got two big content drops, and, That's nice. It's nice to have the time to do that. So.
Yeah, and it's good that you've done it because I mean you're an accomplished sideman and gone out for big acts and Rascal Flats and all that. But I imagine it can get tricky where you could turn around one day like, oh, 20 years have gone by and like I've had a great career, but I don't have my own stuff out there. So
Yeah,
it's cool that you've gotten that done. And
that's exactly it, man. Like Truth and Lie was a record that was put out because I kept thinking, man, what if I were to croak? What would happen if you're in a car crash or some tragic situation and you didn't make any kind of statement? I'd rather leave something behind and everybody hate it than leave nothing behind at all. You know?
I mean, you've got something that you created, and the approval is almost secondary, just the fact that you did it. I mean,
and it helps you really figure out who you are. Making records. Like I look back at the first record and I think, oh man. But on the flip side, I was 25, 26 years old, and that's what a first record does. And I look back and I'm like, man, I was just trying to play as hard and as fast as I could. Anything's going on, as much ammunition as you have, but. It's cool to go from that into Truth and Lie and do that record, which was a little bit more of a story about being caught in the middle of acoustic music and electric music, and there's a lot of songs, man. There's like 24 songs on that record, and and moving forward, we put a lot of time and effort into the Live at the Bijou because we knew we were gonna release that to iTunes Movie and Amazon Prime and. Really get into that world and try to get on that front end of being a guitar guy that has high quality video content in a live setting. Now, obviously, a lot of guitar players have plenty of content in studio settings, but it was one of those things. Yet again, being very personal. Some would call it narcissistic, some would call it selfish. I don't know. But for me, it was just a personal thing of like, man, I want people on the internet to know that I play live, and that's what I love to do is be caught in the moment, So there was a lot of effort into that, and like I said, that led us to this year, and with some good support and some good help, man, just being able to work and double down on my own thing, and finally finish up some projects,
Mm-hmm. From the stuff I've heard, the mix you get live is fantastic too. I mean,
man, that goes out to Evan Owen. His name is Turbo, and Evan mixes that show, and he did the post production. We took the outlines so we didn't clean up any room hiss and noise on the
did a great job.
And whatever. Are you there? Did it clip?
Can you
okay,
see
cool.
me?
Yeah, it got real choppy for a second.
Yeah, it's Skype connections, but yeah, I can hear you fine. But
okay, yeah. So anyways, just throwing love to Turbo.
Yeah, and the separation is good. All the different instruments are clear in the mix. It's just a really good recording. Yeah,
but a lot of time in that. Let me tell you,
yeah,
it's a lot of time.
Well, it paid off. Seriously, man, it paid off. It's a good recording. Not to mention the performance, but yeah, hats off to Turbo. Yeah, it's done well.
Yeah, we met on the Low Cash gig, and he's just one of the most fabulous front of house engineers that I've ever known, and those that listen to a lot of pop country. He's been an engineer on some big boy records, Joe Nichols, I think some Aldean records and stuff like that. He's just a fabulous guy, and if anybody ever has the need for a front of house or a studio mix, man, Evan Owen. So
very cool, very cool. The now when you're writing, as far as your songcraft, like you come up with the germ of an idea, like the genesis of a song. Do you think you typically start off with a physical idea? Like, are you playing and you go, oh, I like that riff? Or do you tend to come up with like a melody in your head or like an abstract melody? Or what usually comes first in the process for you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I get it.
Yeah, no, the answer is all of the above.
Sure.
I've been asked this question a lot lately and podcasts and whatnot. And the interesting thing is like inspiration is kind of not, when you think about it from the outside, you think that it can only come from one place. And I've only recently discovered that the inspirations can come from multiple places, and sometimes it can be an image like a movie or in a video game or something like that. And it just kind of sparks something. Sometimes it comes from an exercise, and sometimes it's both. Like a song like Reach was inspired both by this little idea of practicing melodic phrasing only on one string, right? Not allowing
Hence the
myself,
slide you've got,
yeah, not
that
allowing
descending
myself
slide.
to
Yeah.
use the rest of the guitar. Yeah. So, but on the flip side, that little chord, that little E minor 9 chord,
Mm-hmm.
I kept playing that at the end of the game, Halo Reach. I was like, oh man, so sad. Spoiler alert, that game's 10 years old. If you haven't beat it yet, that's your problem.
Right.
It's like the game ends with your hero not being, there's nothing you can do. You're dead. You played the whole game, you've saved Master Chief, whatever. And I thought, man, what a triumphant yet, kind of heartbreaking way to go out.
Right.
And just over and over, man, I was sitting there after I played it, and I was just like,
Yeah.
I mean, I was just sat there, and I was like, man, I don't know. And that little chord sat around for a day or two, and I don't really know how it came about. And then that melody happened. But other songs kind of happen sometimes when I'll be checking tones. Like
Okay.
there's a new song on my new record that's got this like. It's got
Yeah.
that thing going on, and that just came from like, you're constantly tweaking pedals, and sometimes you just start riffing on something that you're not really paying attention to the riff. You're trying to worry about the tone, and I've been really working hard with single coil Telecaster style guitars. Obviously, the signature
Right.
models are very vintage to have some modern amenities. They're very vintage in tone, and Telly stuff a lot of times is always just really squeaky clean with some compression, and that's
Right.
about it. And I've been trying to like muddy the waters there with using a country flavored guitar, but using some overdrive and some, kind of fun amounts of gain.
Right.
And that's where I was messing with the tone and so on and so forth. It made the riff kind of happen, and I just kept playing that riff as I was trying to get the gain right, because with too much distortion, those double stops don't come out. It just sounds like mud. But with not enough distortion, I'm not kind of achieving anything that's mine. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
We all love, I love Jimmy Olander and Brent Mason, those guys so much, and I have guitars set up just like theirs, so I could, do that thing. But the most important thing when you're trying to be creative is to not retread exactly where you found something.
Sure.
And I love the rock side of things. I love the raucous and the sassy, and I wanted to kind of blend that a little harder with the country bluegrass, Western swing influences that I've got. And talk about like writing. I think everything that I just said, kind of is like where the influence goes. And I started this new record I started it roughly at the end of December. We had 2 new songs we were going to play at NAMM with the show with Andy Timmons. And when I got back from NAMM, I think I wrote about 50 ideas. And when I write an idea, it'll have like what I will call it an A or a B section, whether that be a verse or a chorus. And I'll just let it sit there, and then I'll come back to it in a day or two. And I've been lucky to be able to work out of my house and have the time to let creativity and not be rushed with studio time. And if you only buy 3 weeks or 4 weeks of studio time, you got to get it done. Whereas like this year, I've been able to really step back for 5 days at a time, and then come back to it with fresh ears and be like, oh man, I'm really on the right track. Or no, this isn't the right track. We just spent 3 weeks working on something I'm not going to use. But
It's such an advantage. Yeah.
it is the advantage because I'm working, in my house, and that hopefully will allow me, to put out something that feels very personal and feels like my thing, where it doesn't feel like, another something that we've already heard before, or God forbid, a lesser cool version of something we've already heard before.
Right. The 2 things. It's one, I'm really glad to hear you say the thing about the visual cues and images that can spark your creativity, because I've always really felt that it's really tied in. I mean, even just a cool, like a moody picture might just think like, ooh, I'd like to, like, what does that picture say to me? Like an old tree in a cemetery, black and white photograph or whatever. It could be like, that kind of sounds like just some kind of eerie chord sequence would go with it. And I've always thought that visual could easily inspire audio creativity. But I've asked a couple of the musicians that. It's a common thing in my podcast, and a couple big guys have asked, like, hey, are you ever inspired by other sources like visual sources, movies, whatever? And a couple were like, no, not really.
That's interesting. I would think
Okay, moving on. I guess.
yeah, that's interesting. Now I know that a guy like Vi, I mean, it's evident that visual cues
Yeah.
influence him because he's such a big purveyor of selling the full story, in
Yeah.
shows. To me, I had songs on Truth and Lie that were like inspired by multiple things at the same time. I have emotions and people and feelings also inspired with like I want to make something sound a certain way. So like here's an idea, like what if some kind of emotion, whether it be anger or love or whatever,
Mhm.
that gets in you and you want to express that, but you've got to have a direction to funnel it. So then, you may pull from like a Baroque classical European influence to help you funnel that, right? Or maybe you've got that video game influence, but it needs to be blended with some kind of exercise technique to truly. That's where I go back to like, man, I never really realized that inspiration isn't one thing, and of course, man, I watch. I play a lot of video games. I don't really watch a ton of television, but I think that I'm a big movie watcher,
Right.
and I always am cued in to the audio of the movies, and sometimes maybe even that distracts me a bit from what's going on
Oh
screen.
yeah. I mean, I've had just I don't know that I still have it, but I've had just CDs of Sergio Leone scores and stuff from like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and a lot of the great composers did great film scores.
Yeah. So the cool thing is like when you think about the movie thing, there's sometimes that like there's those perfect marriages, and that's where my song "Elfin Man" came from. It was like Danny Elfman and Tim Burton. I don't know how they met. I don't know what sparked their relationship, but those two dudes with Johnny Depp and or Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice was like all like
Yeah.
the world is a better place because Tim Burton and Danny Elfman know each other.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
he looks like he sounds, and he sounds like his movies look. It's great.
It really
and,
is. It's a match made in heaven. Absolutely.
Oh, I mean, like, and what's his name? Is it Irvin Kershner and Don Williams? Empire Strikes Back is one of the greatest moments of all time. Yeah, and when you listen and when you watch it, some people like muted it out, and it's not the same movie without Williams' score. So
right.
There's a lot of that in there that's really influential. And of course, man, there's the aspect of gear. I think I touched on it previously. But man, it's so fun to get some kind of crazy pedal or amp or guitar or something that can just, maybe spark a sound to go in a direction you haven't gone. And that's been really big for me on this new record because typically on previous outings, I used amp distortions, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I'm using a lot lower gain. I'm using like Fender amps and those Cerebellas, which are low clean amps. I use this Sir Hedgehog on its clean setting.
Okay.
Overdrive pedals, and it's just like that's been very inspirational because I've been on a healthy diet of Jimmy Herring and Derek Trucks and those and the brothers Landreth and all those guys. I've been listening to a lot of slide players, which is interesting because I don't play slide, but I've been trying to emulate their vocal qualities.
Right. That reminds me. I used to be able to see Jimmy Herring when he was with Colonel Bruce Hampton.
Man.
I went to University of Georgia, and so yeah, I'd see the. I mean, I used to run into Widespread Panic at the grocery store. It was, all kinds of stuff. I was eating dinner or whatever, go out to the bars with your buddies, and at 3:00 in the morning you're in a diner eating, and it's Michael Stipe, two stools down. It wouldn't happen all the time, but you definitely.
It would have to be the case. I mean, that have to be, that music's so cultural. It's like. It would have to be like 1985 on Sunset Strip. It's inevitable that Ash is walking somewhere,
That's probably a good analogy. Yeah. Because it wasn't like every day, but you were running into them, 2 or 3 times a year. You're like, oh, that's such and such, But yeah, it was cool. And talk about your.
Honestly, Nashville's like that, man.
Nashville's much more than that now. Nashville is like LA in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
huge. I say this: the parking rates are like LA.
Yeah,
you have to take out a second mortgage if you go out twice in a week.
Yeah, it's but I lived briefly in Nashville. This would probably have been like in 2000. And I remember just going down to a Third and Lindsley every Wednesday night and seeing Reggie Wooten's band, Victor Wooten's brother.
Like Brent plays down there, man. I think Guthrie Trapp's playing at Acme Feed and Seed, a brunch on Sundays, which is mind-numbing,
Yeah, you're talking about little places, and you're...
Yeah,
it's great. Now, talk about your...
Jack Pearson playing at the Station Inn for 78 people is probably one of the most musical, religious experiences anyone could ever have,
Isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome? Now, talk about your Sir models. How does it differ from like a Fender Telecaster? I mean, is it different woods? You mentioned you're going for a pretty vintage style pickup, but like the neck profile, what else? Different?
Yeah, basically, they're perfect in every way. They make you a better player. They kind of make you a better human. Whatever problems you got in your relationships at home, they fix those.
Hear that, audience? It's
They
time to go out and buy
dispense
one.
money out of the middle of the guitar. They're perfect, man.
So buy one now.
Yeah, buy one now. Click the link below. No, in all seriousness, I've got old Fender Telecasters that I've been married to for a long time, and I love them. And Fenders, I think Leo got it right the first time in a lot of ways. There's just little minor tweaks that I wanted to do to not lose the vintage vibe, but to allow me to have some of that more, ease of play for some of the strict type stuff. One of the biggest things, I think the whole guitar kind of came about because I was playing these moderns a lot at the time. I was in a rock band called Down From Up. Mm-hmm. And, I loved that I could be in like the area of the neck, maybe E or F sharp up high, the 12th fret. And I didn't feel the heel of the joint touching the back of my hand. And when I go back to Telly's, I was like, oh, this is how I want to sound. But man, I hate feeling that. It's just like a bit uncomfortable. So I had one of the builders do a fabrication, and the black Telly that I play a lot. Black Modern T that I play a lot is the prototype, and it really nailed what I wanted. I wanted like swamp ash, maple, like as God and Leo Fender intended. I want those vintage aspects. I wanted low output pickups. I wanted a trim because I wanted that. And the benefit coming with that heel joint was that you got a 24th fret. But now the 24th fret was like a byproduct. It wasn't really a necessity, but it was cool. And it was like, oh, if we get all these things in the same guitar, that would just be fabulous. It came to the point where we were talking about neck pickup position because, you want your neck pickup as far towards the neck as far. And it's cool because they do a really unique design there that makes it work. And on the back horn, it's beveled down. Those are the major things. In the hardtail models with the ashtray, vintage ashtrays are big and they've got those like lips that stick up and they hit your hand.
Yeah.
I have those. They shave them out off so it feels like normal, guitar. The fretboard radius is pretty flat because I'm a mandolin player.
Okay.
And I like the way that feels under my fingertips. I don't like a big rolled fretboard because it doesn't feel like mandolin, And really big frets on there so you can have low ease of use action if you want, and you can still get under the strings and bend. And man, that's pretty much it. We worked really hard voicing the single coil, the woodshed pickups. Mm-hmm. If the guitar is a bit too expensive, but you love the sound that I'm getting out of it, and you have a Telly, those woodshed pickups are low output, vintage style. They do the thing, but there's some small tweaks in materials to kind of decrease that noise floor as much as possible and keep your growling and your humming that Telecasters tend to do at bay. And that's kind of the overview. The original colors were black and red, inspired by Marvel's Iron Man comic books. I'm a huge fan, and the black one was inspired by Rhodey Rhodes' War Machine armor, and the Iron Man was inspired by that with the red and gold. And I wanted it to be flat red, like as if it was weathered or whatever. And the cool thing with the flat finishes is that as they wear, they look cooler versus something with a flame top that that does not look cool when it gets a big chunk knocked out of it.
No, it doesn't. No, and plus you would stress out over it all the time.
And then the interesting story about the third one was when they called me at the end of, the end of last year, they said, hey, Andy, it was fall about this time last year. They said, hey, we want to talk about the signature model. I thought, oh man, that sucks. It's not selling well. The first gut instinct is like, I don't have delusions of grandeur. I know I'm not Steve Vai or Van Halen or something. I was like, oh man, it sucks. It's not selling well. I'm bummed. And the first thing they said is like, man, it's doing great. We should do a third color. I said, oh yeah, it's awesome. And then it was like, I immediately go, wait, there's no more colors in the in the Iron Man comics. What am I supposed to do? And being from Tennessee and the distilleries that surround our area and the whiskey and everything, I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if it looked like a bourbon barrel or a whiskey barrel or something like that. And when they torch the body to put that grain in it, they just take the skin off of the ash and it leaves it, with that texture. And I said, man, can we just seal it up like that? And use hardware and pick guard and stuff to make it look like a whiskey barrel. And they've been very successful. Dealers love them. I love that dealers love them. And
that's the first one I noticed.
As long as we can.
Yeah, that's the first one I noticed is that finish. I thought that looked really cool. Yeah. And don't forget, you were talking about earlier, I'm jumping back, but you're talking about getting the grid on the Telecasters. I'm pretty sure the first Led Zeppelin album, Page was playing mainly a Telecaster. Everybody thinks it's a Les Paul, but I think he's playing a Telecaster that first.
A lot of Telecasters. One of the big iconic things in history is the Stairway to Heaven solo. Mm-hmm. That's a Telecaster through a Supro, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so even Jimmy Page knows it's the best guitar. Right. It's like Ricky Bobby says. It's just champions. Car run real good. Yeah, car run real good.
It rhymes in both verbs.
Yeah. I always thought that Telecasters were like high risk, high reward. When you're really playing great, they put everything out of the forefront. Right. When you're really playing bad, they put everything out of the forefront. So,
it makes you appreciate those vintage guitars, like Telecaster, like you're talking about on the hard piece with that raised lip, just 100% in the way of your fingers. I mean, one of your bridge hands in the way, and even the Les Pauls, the weight, and guys like Ted Nugent playing the hollow body Birdlands. I mean, what a nightmare of feedback. But these guys put out all this great music with just severe limitations. They just adapted to it. I mean, Eddie Van Halen, that whole first album, he didn't have a locking tremolo.
Yeah, exactly.
He was just wrenching the hell out of it. Yeah.
Out of a dumpster and kind of fix it together, The interesting thing with the Telecaster thing is that rings true though is with those saddles and that ashtray, when that's not in one and you're using a single coil pickup, I've had other brand Telecasters in the past that didn't have an ashtray at all. It was like the body, the pickup was mounted at the body, and it just didn't sound the same. That's just a huge fundamental to that tone, that wiriness that I love so much. But with that said, it's like you're starting to kind of work your way in your mind how to come up with solutions, hearing solutions, that don't sacrifice and neuter the vibe,
Exactly.
And that's where basically it was just me being old country bumpkin, just saying, hey man, can we just shave these off? I mean, we didn't have to, but we need everything else because that makes it sound the same.
Right.
So they did the first one, and I think we had one mock-up after that, and it was perfect. It's just
cut all this shit off, but I want it to sound good.
Right? Yeah. Can we change everything about it, but I want it to sound the same? It's just, you just watch people just roll their eyes.
Right. The engineers are like...
But you know what? They nailed it. I guess all jokes and nepotism aside, they nailed it. I get, feedback from guys that bought them, and they're loving them. That feels really good to... bring something that's pretty fresh to the table that, especially in today's guitar industry where everything's been done a million times.
Well, and it's got to feel good that you've got changes.
Ironically, I will not name names, but I've been seeing a lot of copycat guitars from other companies, and I'll send them to John or some of my guys at Sir, and I'll be like, look who's making the copycat now. And imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So I'm glad that it's at least enough on people's radar that other guitar companies are, making their version of it.
Right, sincerest form of flattery, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Now, talk about going back to Reach, because I was going to ask this. When you're writing instrumental tracks, where do you come up with a title? Do you come up with a title beforehand? Like, is it part of your vision, or you get it done and go, this sounds like this to me?
Yes, both. Like, I mean, it's, sometimes the way around, they won't have a title forever, and sometimes the title will just be right there for you. And sometimes try to pull in all your different inspirations and and get it. I think there's a song on my new record called Smoke Wagon, and it's got this like really kind of like really country. It's the most country song on the new record, but it's got this kind of it's got that kind of like little riffy kind of thing going on. And I thought the Western aspect of it was I pulled a quote from Tombstone, and it's called where it says "Skin that smoke wagon, see what it gets you." And I was like, oh, Smoke Wagon's a great name for a tune.
Yeah.
And,
I recognized it, but I was like, I wonder if that's the only place Smoke Wagon came from. But that's where I know it from.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's another tune that I got that's got this like on the new record. It's got this kind of weird, not too weird, but it's diatonic, but it sounds like something that would be in like one of the Harry Potter movies. It's like the violins or something. It would kind of fit into that world. And I thought. It's like I always think of those dichotomy words that they use in Harry Potter movies. So that ended up being titled "Forgotten Secrets." Okay. Kind of mysterious type of thing. But you try to just come up with some words that at least evoke an emotion or a mental image. That way, I feel like when I write instrumental music, I'm writing a soundtrack to something that doesn't exist.
Sure.
Yeah. So I guess the soundtrack to what doesn't exist would be like the movie or whatever that doesn't exist, and I'm trying to tie it into that. So, but yeah, it's super difficult naming instrumental tunes. And the last thing I kind of want to do is the one word thing that happens a lot. That's like Caligula or whatever. That's like it's always like the whatever. It always sounds super 80s. Like it's okay if Yngwie Malmsteen names a song Leviathan,
right?
Because he sounds like that.
Right.
But somebody saw me on stage, black with a hat and a Telecaster. They're like, that guy didn't write a word. That's not Leviathan up there. Like,
that's not Leviathan. That's Hoedown.
Yeah, it's trying to be careful about what your branding is,
sure.
And also like trying to be careful to where. Especially with a Southern influence like what I got, I don't want things to be hokey or corny. I don't want them to be, cheesy. There's plenty of country songs that are kind of country instrumentals. Sorry, let me be more specific. They're like kind of corny sounding, and they got corny names and stuff. And to me, it's like that style of playing doesn't have to be cheesy or bad or a joke or anything. Like when you hear Brent Mason, there's nothing funny about that. That guy's a monster,
Right.
And so. I think all of that is just me trying to find my lane in the world and find my way to brand myself and being careful with what the songs sound like and what the imagery is for the art and what the stage production looks like and what it all goes hand in hand. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the title of the song's right there with it.
That makes sense. Like I guess it'd be almost the same as like naming a painting. Like if you put so much effort into a painting, you want to give it some hokey name that sounds or doesn't convey or reflect what the painting is. So yeah, I guess that you have to make sure it ties in, even though there's no lyrics.
You're gonna say it every now. You're gonna say it when you go off stage. Every time you play it live at a show, you gotta have something in there. It's like, and I didn't want to name something like that Back to Austin tune. I didn't want to name that like Song for Eric, or it's like I wanted it to have something that ties to him and his lineage and his performances. Apologies, my dog wants to comment on our.
You mean
podcast.
like Eric's Song for George?
Yeah, it's cool when the song is like Song for George isn't for another guitar player. Like Eric was clever when he did East West.
Exactly,
right?
The West Montgomery and yeah.
Yeah, if I was gonna go song for George, it would be because I knew a George who tragically passed away from a heart. It'd be like
right.
That's the different connotation there.
Absolutely.
I love the way Eric did East West, as it tells you what you need to know without having to explain it,
Yeah. And
not being too knows.
Exactly. Yeah, I thought it was very clever when that came out. One of the things I like off your previous album, is your short version of Amazing Grace.
Oh, that's off the first record.
Yeah. And I really like that. And the things that stood out to me is a couple things. One, you kept it to a short arrangement. And I think it's beautiful because one, everybody knows that it's not really necessary to drag that out for 4 minutes. So you kept it short. You kept the salient points to it. Two, I love the echo on it. I can't tell if it's electronic or analog echo or if it's actual room echo. Because you got those keyboards behind it too that are real subtle, which sort of blends in.
So subtle, yeah. And that was like a mix thing. So I'll tell you the story behind that.
Oh, and real quick, before you tell me the story, do you have a Bigsby on that guitar, or are you doing some kind of palm vibrato, or what? There's real subtle.
That's all hand.
Is it all hand? Okay.
Played on a hardtail, pretty sure.
Okay. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
I'll tell you what it was. It was one of my moderns back when I only had them go down. So they were like hardtails, so I could do the pedal steel bends and stuff. Okay. They only, they didn't go away from the body like the Dimeback. They didn't float or whatever. So my mom was always big. How do I say this? Be complimentary, but also like say what I want to say. Like my mom never handed out really easy compliments. Never had stage parents. Never had oh, you're so good. Blah blah blah. My mom was like, Andy, just don't make a record full of licks. Don't just make a record full of licks. Nobody wants to hear that. And she's.
That's actually really good advice. Yeah,
She goes, don't just play a bunch of licks now. And I said, Mom, what do you want to hear? I was just kind of like, what's it going to be? She's like, I want you to play Amazing Grace, and I don't want you to play the licks over it. I just want you to play melody. And I thought, God, somehow the old Southern mom is right yet again, because a lot of people always comment on that version. And it was so that's where the reason there was no secondary takes. It was just all one thing, one time through.
Right.
Just for, I guess, just to do what she said, and
it turned out so well.
And the echo was just an amalgamation of different delays and verbs that we had chained together. I don't even remember what we ended up using, but I think the Green Line 6 was in there somewhere.
Okay.
And had things rolling around. And when we went to mix it, we needed something else in the mix to where it just, it had something. That's where the keyboards came in. I was like, oh, we just need a little bit of keys just to kind of put some air on it to where it's not,
Well, it's perfect because the keyboards are subtle enough where it's almost like a second listen is when you notice them.
Yeah, you don't get it when you're first time through. And I'm pretty sure that was my brown tortoise colored modern that was in the not the neckmost position, but the next one back. That's just the neck coil of the. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that in years, man.
Yeah, no, I like it. It was good. I played it for my wife. She loved it. I think last week I played it for her. What do you have in your monitors when you're on stage? Like, do you keep, because sometimes you got a lot of musicians up there, and I know sometimes you're playing solo, and sometimes you're playing with everybody, but like, do you have the whole band, or do you have like bass and snare, or what do you have?
Brother, I try to keep the monitors as minimal as possible.
Okay.
When I have sideman gigs, I like the JH Audio in-ear monitors really well when you're having to keep your gear off a stage due to a big production or whatever. But when it's for me doing my solo stuff, man, on my trio gigs, I don't even really want monitors playing. It's like we're all right there next to each other. We can all hear each other's amps. As far as a venue the size of the Bijou, which is like that, 500 seater kind of range, I have one wedge at the very front, and that might have a little bit of hi-hat, a kick drum. And then if somebody is off to one side of the stage and somebody's off to the other side of the stage, I'll let them each have one wedge. Like on this last show, we did three risers, drum riser, riser left and riser right, and each riser had one wedge. And the reason is because things can get out of control in a hurry with acoustic instruments and feedback and nobody on that stage is bashful with their volume knobs. So trying to keep us all from going deaf too.
Right. No, it's got to be, especially with acoustic, it's got to get, that front sound man's got to have, he's got to just be looking at a hawk at those levels to make sure something doesn't suddenly spike up. That's beyond me. Now, what's an aspect of music that's still a mystery to you? As much as you've learned, as many instruments you play, what's something that just still, I don't care if it's creatively or technically or what?
Man, I think the most important thing that stays a mystery to me and something I'm always chasing, maybe is a better way to word it, is how to put what's on the inside to the listener. Like what's in me that makes me me, and without trying to barrage the listener with technique or whatever. It's like that's a challenge, man. You want people to leave the music with a smile, or even if it's a sad song, you want them to feel something. And riding that fine line of just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
You know, that's a mystery, and you know how to tell a good story, whether that be in an instrumental song or if that's a song that's got lyrics like Truth and Lie, man. All those lyrics that wrote on that, they were story songs. You know, there's a bluegrass song, Three for Her, and it was kind of like not a parody, but like in bluegrass music, there's always somebody gets hung, or somebody like Long Black Veil, somebody. And I thought, man, can I write a song and kill as many people as possible? So the guy now the wife's cheating on him, so he kills the wife, kills the guy, and then he gets killed at the end for killing them. So I was like, all right, the most I can kill in one song is three.
Right.
It's
so
three
he
people.
told me I did not have the perfect bluegrass song because it did not talk about my truck. Right?
Exactly. But the mystery is just how do you tell a good story, whether you're using words or you're using harmony and rhythm, and that's the mystery. And I think to put a finer point on that, it's like, how do I tell my story without, just saying something's already been said. I don't want to bring sand to the beach,
Right. No, that's a great way to put it. That's perfect. Yeah. Because even if you know all the steps and what's correct, that doesn't solve the mystery of what's creative. I mean, there's a reason why people can still play a D, A, E, and then still come up with something that's beautiful on top of it that sounds new to everybody. I mean,
that's personal. Like it's
right.
It's a really personal thing. And yeah, you talk about DAE, man. You only got what, like 9 more options,
right? Or in my case, 4. No.
Like you play every note on the piano, and you only got 12. It's like
right.
They're going to repeat. So it's like you got to figure out a way to do something. I think the dangerous thing with instrumental guitar is it's like the Jurassic Park quote, Ian Malcolm, which was played by Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, yeah.
He says, worry so much whether or not they could, they never stop to think if they should.
Right.
And I think that echoes immensely through the Instagram guitar community these days, and through the YouTube community. Like everybody's worried about how much they can do. They're not worried about what. And this is not a day. This is a me too. Like
that's everybody. Everybody struggles with that.
Balance,
right?
It's like trying to say something that makes a personal statement, not something that's clickbait to drive up your likes. And
that's it might be a byproduct of kids today, and I sound like my grandfather, but having access to the internet, they can look up players. I mean, you got 12-year-olds that can play, Ingve and Alan Holdsworth, and
12-year-olds, man, you need to get back on the internet. I'm pretty sure there's an unborn fetus in Japan that's playing Steve Vai songs.
A friend of mine sent me a link the other day of a 7-year-old that was playing a Pantera song, but he was doing the drums and the guitar, double track.
Sure, because everybody's good now,
But when I was a kid learning how to play, I mean, it was I was born in 72, so we're talking like early 80s, whatever. And I mean, you're not learning Van Halen songs off the Mel Bay book that shows bar chords. I mean, like, okay, I don't think that's not most of it. So, you were kind of stuck, but I think it might, but what I'm saying is they get so advanced technically that it still takes that special individual to come out and be creatively inspirational.
What you're talking about is personalization and
right.
thumbprint. In a world where everybody can do everything, the one thing that everybody can't do is be a better, be a better version of yourself.
Right. That's perfect. Yeah. So now we know you've got 2 albums coming out. Or in process. Anything else new on the horizon we should be looking forward to from you?
Man, we got a killer show that I can't tell you the lineup on. It's for NAMM. For those coming to NAMM, we got a good lineup. What else is coming down the pike, man? It's just really I'm in that phase where the Kennedy Wood thing is finished. Mm-hmm. It's in. I've got some contacts in Nashville. We're trying to see if we need to go with a God, what's the word without sounding cheesy? I don't know. Like we need to go with a bigger route, instead of just repeating myself. The right word, I guess, would be gentlemanly. And then the new album, which is going to be titled Junktown, cool. That is getting ready to be mixed. And I think we finished the last bass song today. So, we did bass last. That way I could have as much room in the mix as I wanted guitars. And I know it's been unorthodox, but we finished it up today and just gonna send that off to mix. And I think from there, man, it's there's a lot of content coming out that I've filmed this year with guys like Musicians Toolkit and Jam Play, and I just released a huge content package on JamTrackCentral.com that is the entire Live at the Bijou concert. It's got all of the backing tracks to the 6 original songs that I played in the show, and it's got lesson breakdowns on how to play all of the melodies, and then improvisational technique pointers, and then just an overview at the end on, just a global music overview. So I think that is probably one of the most glowing amounts of representation, where somebody can go to Jam Track Central, hit enter, and buy that, and they get a full concert, and backing tracks and transcriptions and
That's
lesson.
cool.
Like, there's a ton of stuff there. So I'm really, really proud of that. And that thing took, good Lord, that thing took 6 months to finish. It's like you're just trying to figure out what you're going to work on, how you're going to transcribe it, what you're going to talk about, and all that stuff.
I'm sure the transcription takes a long time, because even when you're playing, you're probably playing a lot of stuff. When you go back to analyze it, you're like, I'm not even aware of how many notes I actually played. Yeah.
Improvisation, yeah. So thank God they did the transcriptions and I did.
That's amazing. I was talking a couple months ago to Greg Howe. You aware of him? Guitar player?
Oh, of course, yeah.
He just released a transcription book to his last album, and I was joking with him that he should call it "Stuff You Can't Play" by Greg Howe. But
I imagine a Greg Howe transcription book just looks like one big sheet of black. There's just the time signature at the top and right around the corners.
Well, it's like a black and white Jackson Pollock painting.
Yeah, it's just sharp, just straight across with all of the notes on the transcript. Yeah. So, but Greg's amazing.
He's amazing.
I love the extraction that he did with Wooten and Dennis Chambers. Really brilliant stuff there.
Yeah. Oh, talk about Wooten. Yeah, talk about that. The only time I've seen Bela live, I was in Virginia Beach at a wedding, probably in the 90s, and we were getting ready to leave the next day. We'd been at a hotel, and me and my friend are walking around the beach. There was a privacy fence separating the sidewalk from the beach, and I'm hearing this music. I'm like, I swear I know this music. Like, let's walk up to the end and walk around. Came around the end of the fence, and it's Bela and the Flecktones on a little stage on the beach, just playing a free concert. There couldn't have been 50 people.
Incredible.
Down there. And I was like, well, we're not leaving yet. And we just sat there. I mean, I don't know what it was for. No idea. But, I mean.
It's probably because there was a beach there and they wanted to play some tunes.
I mean, it wasn't like him just playing. I mean, he had Future Man. He had his whole band there. I mean, the whole deal was great. But, well, hey, man, I'm going to let you go. But it's been awesome. I love the answers. I love getting some insight into what all you're doing. And most importantly, I'm looking forward to the new stuff. I've had a great time catching up on all your music. I hadn't heard your first album, so I went back and listened to that a few weeks ago and catching up all your stuff. So I'm a fan. I enjoyed it. But
oh man, those kind words are super appreciated, and thank you for having me. This type of organic growth is so important to guys like me that are just kind of coming onto the scene, and you can't do it by yourself. So I appreciate your support.
Oh, it's half the fun for me is taking the people that I like and respect, and in my own small way, just being like, hey, whoever's listening to me, check this person out for whatever it's worth. If it's 2 people, that dig it, mission accomplished.
Sure. Yeah, man, I'm flattered you asked me, man. You got big names, and you name all my favorite players, so I'm up to ask.
Well, sounds cool, man. Well, give me a shout next time you're playing locally. Like I said, I'm in Farragut. I'm not far from you, so.
What a small world.
Yeah, so I'll come out and see you next time you're playing around here for sure.
All right, my brother.
All right, thanks, Andy.